this Google anti-monopoly thing, I want to touch on that quick. So it went super under the radar because of whatchamacallit, all the crazy stuff going on yesterday. But if they're going to be serious about this, it's a great thing, because especially with what happened the other day with we were looking at Trump. If you want to type in his name, if you type in President Donald, it would come up with Donald Duck. Ready? So let's check this thing out. All right. So New York Times, quote, Google is a monopolist, judge rules in a landmark antitrust case. The ruling on Google search dominance was the first antitrust decision of the modern internet era in a case against technology giant. So Google acted illegally to maintain a monopoly in online search. By the way, it has 90% of the total market. And here, let me show you this real quick. I think this is important to show before we really get deep into this. Google search engine market share. Like, I could just say the number, but the visual of this, you can't beat it. Ready? Check this shit out. Ready? Bear with me. Bear with me. Boom. Isn't that disgusting? Ugh. 90.7% of the search engine market is dominated by Google, and they won't even show that a president got shot in the face, or a presidential candidate got shot in the face, or pre-prompt his name. So can't have that. That's my biggest opposition to Google having that much on the market. I mean, if you have a superior product, love it, great, totally, whatever. I don't want the government getting involved. But if you start operating as a political entity and own the market share at 90%, then totally not cool with that. Well, let me finish this article before I delve into the whole opinion rant about this. 1 second. All right. Boom. So Judge Amit Mehta of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia said in a 227-page ruling that Google had abused a monopoly over the search business. The Justice Department and states had sued Google, accusing it of illegally cementing dominance, in part by paying other companies like Apple and Samsung billions of dollars a year to have Google automatically handle search queries on their smartphones and web browsers. Quote, Google is a monopolist and has acted as one to maintain its monopoly, Judge Mehta said in his ruling. So, quote, this is one of the most important antitrust cases of the century, and it's the first big slate of cases to come down against big tech, end quote, said Rebecca Haw Allensworth, a professor at Vanderbilt University Law School who studies antitrust. Quote, it's a huge turning point. What the judge said in his ruling, after having carefully considered and weighed the witness testimony and evidence, the court reaches the following conclusion. Google is a monopolist and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. Judge Mehta's ruling capped a years-long case, U.S. v. Google, that resulted in a 10-week trial last year. The Justice Department and states sued in 2020 over Google's dominance in online search, et cetera, et cetera. So another thing that we should be vigilant about here. Where does it say it? It says somewhere that there's another case that's going on. Where is it? I need to find this because it's important. Google faces another federal antitrust case over ad technology that is scheduled to go on trial next month. So I hate when the government gets involved with things because I think it's toxic, but mark my words, you would never, ever, ever have a monopoly if it wasn't for the government getting involved. You would never have a monopoly if the government didn't get involved. And the government wouldn't enable somebody to become a monopoly if they weren't benefiting from it. So this is just my old opinion here, but I'm of the school of thought that Google and the government arranged a nice little deal together where one side gets all the data, no questions asked. One side's able to do what they need to do to gain market share, have favorable regulation and policy. Maybe the government looks the other way when it's convenient, and Google, passes them some data when it's convenient. Have you ever wondered why there's very loose regulation around the whole data collection thing that we know everybody in the world, every business in the world uses? I mean, who knows for sure, but I'm of the school of thought that it's because the government doesn't want any red tape getting in the way of collecting data because it's basically reading your mind. But think about how powerful of a weapon that is, that Google is 90% responsible for showing you results to questions you ask. So you could have absolute gold buried tens of pages, tens of pages, because hundreds of pages back would be probably ridiculous, but who knows how many. I mean, have you ever clicked next page when you go into Google search, type something in, scroll to the bottom? How often do you click next page? Super rare for me. I mean, maybe sometimes I'll do 2 or 3, but have you ever gone to the 10th page of a Google search? Super rare, and they know that. They definitely have data on how rare it is for people to click on next page. So if they want to bury a certain article, they can make it impossible to find. I remember the other day, I was looking for an article that this guy was showing in the YouTube video, typed in every word of the article, couldn't even get it to come up. And I had to basically type in an entire paragraph and put all special keys and commas and whatnot to make the thing show up. It's insane. So that's controlling information, and being able to control information allows you to control the narrative. So even more so than the principle of it being a monopoly, I care deeply about this because they decide to act as a political entity. So break that shit up. I hope the government's serious about this. They also said the same thing about Apple earlier this year, that's violating the monopoly, blah, 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 whatever it is. And yeah, they are. I think the monopoly rules, if you're over 50% of the market, then you're in violation of being a monopoly. So Google's at 90%. I think Apple's at 60% of the US phone market. So I'm all well and fine with it until they start abusing that politically. I mean, remember in 2020 when they took Parler off the App Store for the Apple App Store and for the Google App Store? So that's being a gatekeeper to information. Not cool with that one bit. So I'm in favor of demonopolizing this, but don't let it be forgotten that we're in this situation in the first place because of the government enabling it. No monopoly would become a monopoly would cease to exist if it wasn't for government intervention. Right? The freer the market, the better. And people conflate that a lot because, economically, I think the freest possible that a market could be is the best it could be. But I disagree with libertarians from the standpoint of libertarianism from a law and order standpoint, because that would turn into anarchy. So, 100% free market economically, but disagree with libertarians when it comes to law and order. Call me crazy.